and her reply was, this would be an enormous blessing for Estonia. So you see the sentiment and the change what this will bring, and it will also bring a lot of stability and opportunities. Now we have a domestic issue on the table, and that is a fiscal deficit. There has been a lot of talk in Estonia over the past few months on the fiscal side, and that is really the task now. And it's not the task of how to get more revenues, but actually how to keep your expenditures in a deficit limit. And that is the most important thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Munkhammar, you agree what Mr. Tamm and Andres Sutt said?
Yes, of course. I agree completely. I think it's been very interesting comments and speeches following my introductory speech as well. Just one comment to the Swedish government of the early 1990s, where Bo Lundgren was a part, managed to do both the crisis management of the crisis in an apparently very good way, and keep a focus on the long-term structural free market reforms, as I mentioned, which is always a difficult task. But it showed that both were very important, that the first crisis management, of course, very important, but you can't do only that. So the Swedish government managed to do all these deregulations and lowering taxes, etc., which provided the foundation for better competitiveness in the long run, which gave Sweden 10 years of quite good growth rates after the crisis, and provided us with better opportunities for the future. And I think that's a way to use a crisis so that you can actually get the mandate for change, so that you can launch substantial reforms as well. Because we can see, I didn't mention Karl Marx because I thought that the actual readers of Karl Marx would be in a problem. But I think it's a sign in time that when we have a big financial crisis, sometimes people run to government for help because they think government is the solution, because the market was obviously the problem. And my point is that you have to, as a political leader in this time, you have to realize that people might rush in that direction, and that you have to try to explain that the causes of the crisis is to a large extent government intervention. We can see countries that failed in that respect. Look at Argentina, which was 100 years ago one of the world's wealthiest countries. And then they ended up in a crisis, and they got more of the policies that created the crisis as a response to that, and they continued. They got a new crisis, and they got more policies creating more crises. And now, you know, Argentina is quite far from being one of the wealthiest countries of the world. So that's the kind of downward spiral you can get in. If you interpret the causes of the crisis wrong, you handle the crisis wrong, and you get the long-term reforms in a wrong way. I think that there is always a risk in this current financial crisis that we get excessive regulation in the financial markets. And that would be a great problem, because the world needs free financial markets. Of course, we need regulations. Government has a role. Government has to be strong in this case, but then government has to pull out and put only light and transparent regulation in the financial markets. And I think there's also a risk, now that we're in a recession in many countries, that we lose the reform pace, and that would be very unfortunate in the long-term perspective.
Thank you. Mr. Lundgren, maybe you are next.
Thank you very much. I mean, I agree what the previous speakers have said when it comes to the structural direction of reforms and so on. But I would like to add one thing which I think is a necessity. We talked about Iceland, and I said that, of course, Iceland is too small for what happened. On the other hand, Iceland didn't prepare either in a way that they might have been more lucky of doing. And we have some problems today in their implementing the agreements, which, well, make them not happy about Sweden, as perhaps you know. Anyway, what I would like to add is that I think that the Estonian government should also think about what's happening now and try to get prepared for what might come, even get prepared for something that's even worse than might come, and to have contacts, of course, with Swedish authorities due to the situation that our economies are so interlinked, especially in the financial sector. I mean, we know that the Swedish banks are strong in capital. We know that Swedbank is going to issue new equity or get in new equity of sizable amount as well. But still, I mean, obviously, to be prepared for what could happen, even if it doesn't happen, makes it much easier to go on with the reforms as well. So my real advice is to do this. And also try, I don't follow the political situation that much as I used to do in Estonia now, but try to get as broad agreement as possible politically for kind of emergency legislation if it's needed. We did... together with the Social Democrats, the present government in Sweden did once again, as I said, the old legislation change for modern times, so to say. That they managed to do that very fast, so that's what we are working from now. And to have that in your bag, if something should happen, is a very good thing, because then you can meet the tsunami before it reaches the beach.
Thank you. Mr. Kallas, you have experience as Financial Minister from Estonia, as Prime Minister, now as Vice President. What are your comments for this intrigue between state one side and other side, private business?
I must say that it's very difficult not to join with all other speakers in their comments, and everything has been said. I would only add two remarks. One remark is concerning the situation in the layers of political decision-making in Europe. And that's a complicated picture today. Many governments in Europe are clearly panicking. It was already mentioned that many governments are calling for protectionist measures, and even if I believe that a group of countries who are more pro-market orientated and are more fundamentalists in these questions, including the biggest country in European Union, can resist these kind of protectionist measures. But what happens to the budget deficit in Europe? This is highly unpredictable, because governments, due to permanently running elections somewhere and permanently running polls of public opinion, they clearly have an attempt on some kind of passion to short-term solutions, and this is, of course, we have discussions about Polish shipyards today. We have already calls to take very seriously the European car industry. We just recently had and still ongoing discussion about European fisheries. So there is a strong attempt to bail out, not to make only financial packages supporting horizontal issues. For instance, package has agreed to support the innovation in car industry, which is, you can only support it to support horizontally. It's not concrete companies and concrete toxic assets in these industrial enterprises. So this is, we talked a lot about the possible scenarios, including negative scenarios. I would add that the political uncertainty is also one important thing which is in Europe, worries me and worries also European Commission very much, because the Commission is guardian of two things: Stability and Growth Pact. It means budget deficit, and state aid, which means the same, that the rules must be followed for free and fair competition, and this is a heavy battle. Every day, Commission is 1,000 times per year opening infringement cases against member states in violating. So this is one remark. Second remark is a question. Kelle ajastu, whose age starts after the crisis? And I would only add that everybody, I don't know, expects or not, but we see also the new generation of entrepreneurs coming.